Prime Minister, let me start with the question around Singapore, India. The good news is there's a good base. That notwithstanding, it seems to me that if you're brutally honest, China occupies a very different position in the psyche of Singapore and Singaporeans. And I'm not sure whether it's because of the ethnic makeup of our country or the G2G comfort in the past, or just because China is bigger in size. And therefore, there's a lot more happening with China. Or could it just be, which is what I find, that Singapore finds, or Singapore, particularly Singapore business, finds it difficult to navigate India. What's your sense of this? And is there a way we can elevate the Singapore-India equation to much like the Singapore-China equation?
The potential is always there. You say China is bigger, in a way that's true. The GDP is 3 times bigger than India's. The trade is maybe 5 times bigger than India's, global trade. And our trade with China and our investments in China are much, much bigger than our investments or trade with India. But in another way, in terms of head count, you have as many Indians as there are Chinese in the world. So why is the potential not fully developed? Well, it's partly the history of the way the reforms have been carried out in China, and they took off, I think, starting earlier than you. But it's also because India has a more complicated society and more complicated political situation, and things take longer to happen. We would like to develop much more in India. I remember vividly one Indian businessman telling me everything is quite transparent in India, you just need to know where to go. So I think that there are many individual opportunities. Individual businessmen go, they do well, they invest in hotels, they do projects, they trade. I think there are some infrastructure projects now in India, HyFlux is there. But in a strategic sense, there is not that same clear focus on development, on being outwardly oriented, on wanting to draw in maximum all of the sources which can help you to prosper. The Chinese, for example, I think have been very systematic in making use of their diaspora, in the way they cultivate the diaspora, in the way they bring the diaspora in to their activities. For example, when they celebrated their 60th anniversary and had a big parade in Beijing, they invited people from all over the world to come and participate who were community leaders in their own societies. And the diaspora has made a big difference to them, bringing back capital, providing them the network. India has a tremendous NRI diaspora, but I think that you can do more with them, and you really also want to have that confidence to open up and link up with the world. And sometimes it's difficult, sometimes you have other social considerations, but if you want to move faster, if you want to fulfill that potential, you have to do that. I think the WTO is one area which has been a troubled issue, and successive Indian governments have taken a very, if I put it diplomatically, a very cautious and conservative view of what it is wise for India to open up to. But in fact, it's difficult to open up. But if there is an international deal, that's one way to help overcome the domestic political difficulties and justify changes which in the long term are beneficial and which India will profit from enormously. But it has not been, and I think we're waiting to see how this new government will take it. There was some leftover business from the previous government with a WTO agreement which was reached in Bali last year in December. And the new government decided it needed to reopen that issue, and unfortunately, therefore, the deal unraveled, which I think is a pity for everybody.